Hi, everybody. This is Coach Jennifer with the Special Education Parent Coach. And today we have a segment of Ask Coach Jennifer, where you can submit a question and I will make a video and answer your question for you. So today's question comes from Janice in Pittsburgh. And Janice submitted an awesome question. And her question had to do with the difference between an individual education plan, or an IEP, and a 504 plan. And her school district, they were attempting to receive an IEP plan, and she was told that that was denied because her student didn't qualify, but they could offer their student a 504 plan as sort of a consolation prize. So she wrote to me asking what they could do and if they should go ahead and just take the 504 plan because it was better than nothing. So I am excited to answer your question. It's a great question. This is something that is very common all around the United States. Many school districts kind of treat the IEP plan and the 504 plan as very similar and under the same umbrella. So if they have a child who doesn't necessarily qualify under the IEP certification process, then they will offer them a 504 plan as sort of a consolation prize. And so we're going to discuss a little bit what the different purposes in a 504 plan versus an IEP plan, because they really are two different vehicles to support and help a child. And so once you understand the two differences, then you can really look at your individual child and decide if a 504 plan is appropriate or if an IEP plan is really what's appropriate to best serve your student and your child. So, what actually is an IEP? Well, an IEP is an individual education plan, and it's a written statement of the educational program that's designed to meet a child's individual needs. Now, every child who receives special education services must have an IEP, and it really serves two purposes. The first is that it's going to set reasonable learning goals for that student to be measured to see if the interventions and supports are working. And secondly, it really states the services that the district has signed up to provide for that child. So it gives you an idea of what services they're qualified for and what the school is going to give. And then also, what are those annual goals? What are the reasonable learning goals that we have set for that child? So that's an individual education plan. And it really requires two main things to qualify for. First is that you have to have a diagnosis of a specific learning disability or medical diagnosis. And then second, it's not enough to just have a diagnosis of a verified disability. But the second piece that a lot of parents don't understand is that you have to actually show that that really impacts the ability for the student to learn. So you have to have a diagnosis that's been recognized, and then you have to show that that diagnosis or that disability interrupts their ability to learn. And once you can qualify both of those things, then you should qualify for an IEP plan or an individual education plan. So that's an individual education plan. What's a 504 plan? Well, it's really called the Section 504, and it's really the Section 504 of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And what that states is it's really a civil rights law which protects people from discrimination because of disabilities. So it will provide access and removes obstacles. We kind of sometimes refer to this as the ramps and wheelchairs law, which provides that if you're in a wheelchair, then there has to be a ramp to accommodate you to be able to get into the building or some way for you to access it that doesn't discriminate against you because you're in a wheelchair. Okay? So a 504 plan or a Section 504 plan is really a very different idea than an IEP. So if they are telling you and your student that you don't qualify for an Individuals with Disabilities Education Act IEP plan, if you don't qualify for that, then it's probably either the diagnosis wasn't properly done, or you didn't document the diagnosis, or two, more than likely, it's because they don't believe that the nature of the disability rises to the level that they have set that really impacts your student's ability to learn. So if you're going to try to get an IEP for your student and you've been denied, then that's where I would focus my time. I would spend it really looking at how do I document and provide proof and support to my assertion that my child has a documented disability and it does impact their ability to learn in these ways. Okay? So if they're offering you a 504 plan in place of an individual education plan, then I would begin to question, what is the 504 plan really going to solve for you? What's it going to do for you? There's a couple of things that you want to keep in mind when you're dealing with IEPs and 504s. An IEP is from the time that they are approved as receiving an IEP until they either graduate from high school or they turn 22 and age out of the education system. Once one of those two things happen, the first one, whichever one happens first, then your child no longer has an IEP. So an IEP does not go to college with your student. An IEP does not go into the workforce with your student. And it's not a lifetime document that's going to be with your student. But if you have a 504, that is something that does go with them because it's the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it does go into colleges. It does go into the workforce. And it can stay with them for the rest of their life, is having that 504 plan. A couple of things about 504 plans. They do not have to be written. There is no law that states they have to be written. They typically are nowadays, but they don't have to be, number one. Number two, a 504 plan does not require parent consent. So a school can just inform you that they have given your child a 504 plan. And there's really no parental involvement that's required. Now, a lot of schools nowadays definitely include the parents, but there are some that don't. So if you want to really have an active role in that student's education plan, then I highly recommend that you make sure that you schedule yourself some time to understand the law, which is the IDEA 2004, so the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act 2004, and make sure that you understand how do you qualify and what are the criteria that the school is going to use. Because once you have all that documented, then you can go into that initial IEP meeting when you're asking to have your child evaluated and serviced. Then you can begin to show them you already understand how the law works and how you think your child qualifies for service. So in an answer, if you're asked by the school district to accept a 504 plan because your child didn't qualify for an IEP, then I would say no. I don't want a 504 plan if that's not what's going to serve my child best. So don't take a consolation prize, and make sure that you understand the difference between the two documents and how one or the other would serve your child best. So thanks again for submitting the question. And if you have a question, make sure you submit it on our Facebook page, The Special Education Parent Coach, or go to our website at thespecialedparentcoach.com. Again, this is Coach Jennifer with the Special Education Parent Coach. We are changing the future for special needs kids, one parent at a time. Have an awesome day.